It's really something, isn't it? How old legal threads can suddenly pop up years later and, well, potentially change how we see current events.
Absolutely. And we have a situation just like that today, uh, possibly circling back to Hak-ja, the leader of the Unification Church.
Yeah, often called the Moonies, though we'll mostly use the formal name.
Right. So we're diving into a pretty tangled web of information here. Allegations about potential lobbying funds, maybe even bribery.
And this isn't just recent news. We're looking at stuff stretching back to 2018, right up to, well, things happening practically now in May 2025.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, you should know, we're drawing on news reports, but also a specific document we found. It's from a website that seems focused on anti-corruption within the Unification Church itself.
Okay, so a mix of sources. And our goal here, just to be clear for everyone listening, is to map out these events, understand the core claims based only on this information we have. We're not taking sides, especially with anything politically charged, just trying to piece together the timeline, who's involved, and what's being alleged.
Laying out the facts as reported in our sources.
All right, so let's start at the beginning then. Back in 2018, what kicked this all off?
Okay, so September 2018, you've got some, let's say, internal movement happening within the church leadership. Two key figures. Yoon Ho was apparently a high-ranking official then, world headquarters director, according to the info we have, and another person, Young Won-ju.
Right.
They filed a formal complaint, and this complaint was against Park Jin-young.
And Park Jin-young was Han Hak-ja's legal advisor.
That's right, her legal advisor, so already quite high level.
And this wasn't just some minor disagreement. The complaint, it had serious charges listed, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. We're talking breach of trust, fraud, and even violating the Attorney-at-Law Act. Pretty serious stuff.
But the really key part, the bit that makes this relevant now, is what else was reportedly in that complaint.
Exactly. This is crucial. The complaint that Yoon and Young filed with the prosecution, it allegedly contained a statement saying that Han Hak-ja herself provided lobbying funds to Park Jin-young.
Okay, wait. So back in 2018, her own high-ranking official, Yoon Ho, is essentially telling prosecutors that she gave lobbying money to her lawyer.
That's what the sources suggest was in the statement submitted. It directly links Han Hak-ja to these potential funds right from that early stage.
Okay. So big allegations made back then. But what happened with that specific 2018 case? Did it go anywhere?
Well, interestingly, no, not really in terms of charges. The Unification Church itself reportedly dropped the complaint in April 2023.
They dropped their own complaint.
Seems so. And then the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office officially closed the case in May 2023. No indictment for Park Jin-young.
So case closed, you'd think. But there's a twist, right? Something about the document closing the case. The non-indictment decision.
Yes, exactly. A non-indictment decision, just so you know, is basically the prosecution saying, we're not pursuing charges. But, and this is the fascinating part, even though Park Jin-young wasn't charged for the breach of trust or fraud, that official decision document reportedly contains detailed information about Han Hak-ja allegedly providing bribes.
So the prosecutors wrote down details about potential bribery involving Han Hak-ja, even while deciding not to charge her lawyer on the other stuff.
That's what our sources indicate, yes. The information was apparently documented based on what Yoon and Young had told them.
Okay, that raises a question then. If they had documented information about potential bribery back in 2018, why didn't that lead to charges? Why focus only on the breach of trust and fraud against the lawyer?
That's a fair question. The source material suggests the reason is, well, procedural almost. The original complaint filed back then by Yoon and Young.
Yeah.
It was specifically aimed at Park Jin-young for breach of trust and fraud. It wasn't filed as a bribery complaint against Han Hak-ja.
Ah, okay. So the information about potential bribes came up during that investigation, but it wasn't the actual crime they were initially asked to investigate.
Pretty much. The focus was elsewhere, legally speaking, even if the bribery information surfaced and was noted down.
Got it. That makes sense of the 2018 outcome. Information existed, even documented, but no direct bribery charge then because that wasn't the initial complaint. So things go quiet for a few years until 2024. What happens then? How does this all come back?
Right. Fast forward to March 2024. A man named Kim Sang-min, who's the Secretary General of this civic group, Justice Solidarity.
Okay, a public interest group.
Yeah, seems like it. He reportedly gets his hands on information about that old 2018 complaint.
And where did he get this info? from the prosecutors.
The sources suggest it came from people who were involved in the original 2018 complaint, potentially Young Won-ju, Yoon Young-ho again, or maybe others named like Kim Seok-byung, Cho Kwang-soo, people with inside knowledge, it seems.
So insiders are potentially bringing this back up.
That's the implication. And Kim Sang-min, he doesn't just sit on it.
What does he do?
He takes action. In that same month, March 2024, he files a new complaint. This one goes to the Seoul Northern District Prosecutor's Office.
A completely new case.
Yes. And this time, it names 6 people. Crucially, Han Hak-ja is one of them. And the charges explicitly include things like aggravated punishment for specific crimes, specifically bribery.
Ah, so this is the direct bribery complaint based on the 2018 allegations.
Exactly. This action by Kim Sang-min is really what pushed those 2018 allegations out into the open, into public view.
Okay, so now it's public. A formal bribery complaint against Han Hak-ja and others. This must have triggered a new investigation, right? Into 2025.
It did. The case went to the Gyeonggi Nambu Provincial Police Agency for investigation.
And how did that investigation proceed?
Well, apparently, quite slowly. Our sources mentioned that interviews with suspects didn't really start until around January 2025.
January 2025. That's like 10 months after the complaint was filed in March 2024.
Yeah, it does seem like a significant lag time.
And who did they actually talk to? Did they investigate Han Hak-ja this time? Or Yoon Young-ho, who made the original claims?
This is where it gets interesting again. The source material says Yoon Young-ho's status in this specific investigation is unclear. But Yoon Won-ju and Han Hak-ja herself were reportedly not investigated.
Not investigated, even though Han Hak-ja was named in the bribery complaint?
That's what the sources state for this particular 2025 police investigation.
Okay, so what was the outcome? Did this slow investigation lead anywhere?
No. On April 1st, 2025, the police closed the case. Didn't even send it to the prosecution.
Closed it? Why?
The official reason given was dismissal due to lack of suspicion. Essentially, they concluded there wasn't enough evidence to move forward with charges.
Wow. So the 2018 allegations resurface. A direct bribery complaint is filed in 2024, but by April 2025, the police investigation ends it, saying lack of suspicion.
The sequence of events for that specific complaint, yes.
Okay, you'd think that would be the end of the story. But there's another recent twist, isn't there? Something involving Yoon Young-ho again, just now in May 2025.
Yes, very recent. This unfolds in the context of a different investigation. The Seoul Southern District Prosecutor's Office has been investigating Yoon Young-ho.
For what?
Well, there was a search and seizure back in December 2024, and it seems connected to something called the Queen Bee coin case. Yoon himself had apparently suggested publicly that his questioning was about that coin issue.
Okay, so it's separate financial investigation involving Yoon Young-ho.
Right. But during recent questioning in that case, around May 2025, Yoon reportedly confessed to something else entirely.
What did he confess to?
He apparently admitted giving a necklace and a bag to Kim Kyeon-hee.
The First Lady?
Yes. And the crucial part, he reportedly stated he did this on Han Hak-ja's instructions.
Wait, what? He's saying Han Hak-ja told him to give gifts to the First Lady.
That's the reported confession. He allegedly linked the gifts, the necklace, the bag, and some reports mentioned Cheongsam liquid too, directly back to Han Hak-ja, saying they were prepared after he reported to her.
So he's directly implicating Han Hak-ja in giving potentially improper gifts to the First Lady.
It certainly sounds like it. He's framing it as acting on her orders.
And this is Yoon Young-ho, the same person who, back in 2018, allegedly told prosecutors Han Hak-ja gave lobbying funds to her lawyer.
Exactly the same person. It draws a really striking parallel, doesn't it?
It really does. In both the 2018 situation and this very recent one, Yoon Young-ho seems to be pointing the finger directly at Han Hak-ja as the one behind potential bribery or improper payments.
He's consistently identifying her as the principal figure in these allegations, yes, across different contexts and years.
Okay, let's try and pull this all together. It's a lot to take in. We've got the 2018 allegations from inside the church,
which then resurfaced publicly in 2024 through that civic group's complaint.
Followed by a police investigation in 2025 that gets dismissed.
Dismissed for lack of suspicion, yeah.
But then, almost immediately, we get this reported confession from Yoon Young-ho in a separate case, again implicating Han Hak-ja, this time regarding gifts to the First Lady.
That's the timeline in a nutshell.
So what are the main things we should be thinking about here? What are the key takeaways from all this, based on our sources?
Well, first, I think the persistence of the allegations is noteworthy. The claims about Han Hak-ja and lobbying funds originated way back in 2018 from key insiders, Yoon and Young.
And the fact that those claims apparently made it into the official non-indictment decision for Park Jin-young back then, that seems important too.
Absolutely critical. It suggests the prosecution, at that time, documented information supporting these claims based on Yoon and Young's statements, even if it wasn't the charge they were pursuing against Park Jin-young.
So, documented evidence, or at least testimony, existed back then, which makes the 2025 dismissal of the direct bribery complaint perhaps seem, well, a bit puzzling.
It definitely creates a point of tension. You have the early documented claims, Yoon's recent reported confession repeating the pattern of implicating Hak-ja, and in the middle, a police dismissal citing lack of suspicion for the formal bribery complaint. It raises questions about the different investigations and maybe what evidence was considered or available to each.
Yeah, it's complex.
And finally, you can't ignore the connection Yoon Young-ho is making now. The current focus on these alleged gifts to the First Lady, Kim Ki-hye. Yoon is explicitly linking them back to Hak-ja, just like he linked her to the alleged lobbying funds in 2018. He's the common thread identifying her involvement.
It really is an intricate story playing out over years with legal twists, and these allegations just keep resurfacing in different forms.
It certainly makes you pause and consider Yoon Young-ho's role in all this and his consistent pointing towards Hak-ja. What are the implications of these repeated accusations across time?
That's a huge question, and it leaves me thinking, what does it really signify when you have detailed bribery allegations reportedly written into a legal document years ago based on insider statements, but then a later direct bribery complaint gets shut down fairly quickly by the police? Does that just point to how incredibly difficult it might be to actually investigate and prove these kinds of high-level, potentially sensitive allegations?
That's exactly the kind of thought-provoking question you're left with. And for you listening, if you want to dig deeper, looking into the news reports surrounding these events, maybe seeing if any of the legal documents become public, that's probably the next step to forming your own more complete understanding.